Okay, so at this point, does anyone have a very, very pressing question you would like to ask? Please don't be Singaporean about this. Please ask questions. Okay, don't do the, I'm not going to do it first, I'll wait somebody else to do it, and then I'll start, So anybody has a question, please, so that our WDA staff can look for you. Anybody? Yes, very good. Thank you, sir. Can someone please get him a microphone? Thank you. Brilliant.
Hello. Hi.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Leong Lap Wing. I have a question regarding what I heard today was the explosive growth of mobile content or mobile content consumption. And I'm just wondering to the panelists, what do you see in the middle or short term would be the bottleneck in this growth? Would it be content? Would it be hardware? Or even in terms of the monetization of this phenomenon?
Very good question.
Thank you.
Great question. Who would like to go first?
Ladies first, of course.
Ladies first? Oh, no. She's wearing a
Sorry, I have
one.
one.
If you could wear yours, it would be fantastic.
You asked a very hard question. Thank you. That's why I think we're doing ladies first.
It's a very good
Yeah. So I think actually it is an excellent question. And I'm torn between a couple of the alternatives you've given, because I'd say the one that resonates with me has to do with monetization. So I think that there's a lot of hunger on the part of consumers to try new things, but they don't necessarily try them in as organized a fashion, right? As certainly marketers would like. And we know that in the marketing environment that the use of digital channels is lagging quite far behind the actual usage on the part of the consumer. So we know that, from my perspective, and I'm glad you're going to take technology, because that'll be a good complement. But I do think certainly from a marketing perspective, there are a lot of marketers are afraid to try the new things, and they're worried beyond I think if you're a developer, sometimes beyond the funding for development, you're worried about whether the business model will really be robust enough to support the technology in the long term.
A good answer. To build on that, so we're clear on the scale of what we're discussing. Asia is #1 in mobility. Asia is #1 in application downloads. Asia is #1 in phones per consumer. We're #1 in e-commerce. We're #1 in m-commerce, for mobile commerce. So obviously, if it's going to happen anywhere, it's going to happen in Asia. And yet, nobody has a really good answer on monetization yet. The number of smartphones doubled in the last year, and yet the number of really smart people making content for mobility solutions has not doubled. And so your question is directly in line. One of the greatest challenges we'll face with mobile will be on the technology and distribution side. If 5,000 people want to watch the same event at the same time on the same corner in Jakarta or in Beijing, the phones cannot deliver a broad spectrum stream to that many concurrent users from one hotspot. But that's the last challenge. Right now, we are seeing streaming of the World Cup reaching more people than ever before on mobile devices. We have not seen, and will probably see, people who then suddenly start to believe that this is a true opportunity for brands like Coke and other major manufacturers in FMCG. So it may take to the next Olympics, but I think you'll see more interest in testing the capabilities of how far we can take it. But content is the next challenge. What are we watching and why are we watching it?
Over to you, Marco.
So I'm very much looking at it from the content creator side. I think technology problems can always be solved really, really quickly as long as there's a demand in the market. What I'm seeing, especially here in Singapore, is the problem that content creators don't create content for mobile devices. I'm seeing so many people doing still feature films, doing still TV series. But when it comes to, let's say, even YouTube shows, there are very little, there's just a very few actually around here in Southeast Asia that specialize on this specific type of content. And I'm really encouraging everyone to learn how to do web series, how to do microfilms, and especially how to sell those formats to marketers to distribution channels?
So basically, the power is in your hands. I think the session is, I would love for us to say that we know the exact answer to that question. It's a very good question, by the way. The key honesty, I feel, is that if people like yourselves, if the creatives don't take ownership of this situation, then it can't improve. So it really is about the people in this room making a decision that there is a wave, there is a trend. Rather than waiting for the Americans, Europeans, or the Chinese to beat us there, that the Singaporeans have to do it. The Singaporeans have to do it well, and do it better. I really, really feel that if you are willing to take up the challenge, you should really go out there and make content. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of something called I think it's 96 Degrees Cafe or something. It was a web series that MediaCorp released. Have you heard of this, the 96 Degrees Cafe? It was very interesting. It's a web series that MediaCorp released that then spawned a MediaCorp television series. Or something along those lines. Sorry, I don't watch enough Channel 8, okay? It's not because I'm biased. I just don't watch much terrestrial TV at all, hence this session. Okay, before we jump to the next question, I just want to ask, James said something to me when we were first preparing for this topic that was very intriguing to me. I never heard of it before, and being a technology guy, I want to ask him about it. Is it possible for the demand to grow so great, the consumption so great, that we can exceed the total bandwidth of the internet? That means, is that actually physically possible?
We've tried to do that a few times. And
This weekend, we may try again.
Akamai is a company that specializes in moving big events. So they move things like the gentleman who jumped out of a hot air balloon at, suborbital heights. And they were almost losing control of the internet speeds that were being requested because we really don't know on any given year how many people are going to tune in. And so the actual theoretical problem is that within 3 years at this rate, we'll run out of bandwidth on the internet. And that's not me, that's Bill Wheaton, who is the head of media at Akamai. If we took all of television today and tried to stream it to everyone, we would break the internet. We don't have the capacity. You look at companies like Google, and I don't want to talk too much about tech, but it's kind of an indication when these companies are buying satellite companies. They're buying all of their own distribution solutions. And we're talking about heterogeneous solutions, which is where we've run out of one form of bandwidth, so we augment it with another. And that's something you will see here in Singapore. We're already looking at ways in which you will automatically jump from one network to the next seamlessly. So if Wi-Fi is available in this room, your 3G will turn off. All right, this happened in the US already. AT&T gave everyone an iPhone and then realized we don't have enough bandwidth to handle everyone with an iPhone. But technology is not the challenge. The real challenge is that it's in our natures not to want to innovate. We like the old way of making money in advertising.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get people to believe that mobility is the same amount of money because it's not as good old television. So therefore, there's all these myths in the market like you can't stream in India. Now, I love Lisa's chart because if you look at the people who intend to watch the World Cup online, India's like 38%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This is 4 years ago when we did the Cricket World Cup. They said, you can't stream in India, which was great because they didn't charge us anything and we got to do it anyway. We reached over 60 million people in one tournament streaming cricket at a time in which they said, you can't stream cricket. So when I hear a question like, well, when are we going to break the internet or when are we going to break mobile? I say, bring it on. Let's break it, right? Think of the number of people expressing their desire to communicate in a certain way and to do something that now we can talk to them in a relevant way. And all we had to do was basically bring the network to its knees. It doesn't take that much for MEO to get taken to its knees, does it?
And when the whole internet slows down, we think it's StarHub's problem, right? But it's actually the World Cup.
This is true. And we are blessed. I think the total number of households in Singapore that have broadband of more than 2 meg or 10 meg is 100% of Singapore. What are we doing with it? And that's a content question again. So yes, I accept that. We are trying to break the internet every time we have an opportunity. Olympics, great events. there's going to be a launch of Virgin Galactic next year,
Yes.
which everyone in this room will know about. Think of that. We're going to do something that's not my company, not my campaign, not my strategy, and not my content, not even my technology, but it will bring the global internet to its knees, and everyone in this room will know about this launch, and I can't tell you about it because it's still secret. Okay? But you'll remember you were
But the
sitting there.
video's on YouTube already, so go.
The trailer's there?
I don't know, but the guy who's their marketing guy has been talking, he'll talk
It's
about
good.
it, and they just saw something that, I think it's $100,000 or something to actually ride in the space capsule, but there's
to
a
be an
balloon.
astronaut.
Yeah, and you don't actually have to be a true astronaut. You can just ride in the balloon, the Virgin Galactic balloon. Just
that's
today,
true.
I sent it to my husband and said, I want to do this. Christmas is coming. Think Santa. I want to do it. Wouldn't you love to do it?
Are you? I'm definitely there. Does it come with the bungee, or do you stay in the
No,
balloon?
you get to stay in the balloon. It's not Felix Baumgartner. You get to stay in the balloon.
To segue from that, it's interesting what can be done campaign-wise, because what's happening, if you look at Red Bull especially, Red Bull is a fantastic user of social media, of video on the internet to really push its brand. I think brand building via viral campaigns has really, really reached new heights in the last 10 years. Any questions from the floor before I ask another question? I don't want to be the one asking questions. Who has a question?
Hi. So I have a question about kind of when you're trying to roll out like a marketing campaign or even distribution, and you're targeting, one, you're trying to target a global audience, and two, you have a limited budget. How much do you have to think about like cultural differences or differences in between countries when you're rolling these things out? I mean, I know you have to consider, how things will go over with certain cultures, but how much do you have to think about it?
Cool.
So
Customization, I think.
is the question, is it a good day when someone says global campaign and zero budget, or is the question cultural sensitivities when you're trying to reach a large
Because the
audience?
budget thing is a bit... do you want us to address the budget issue or just the
which
cultural
one?
issues first?
The cultural.
Cultural.
issues.
Okay, so we'll talk cultural first. We just pretend we have infinite money.
I'll answer
Okay.
too. Go ahead.
I have
Infinite
the
money.
joy of having worked for brands that handle things like technology, HP being one of them, computers, hand phones. I spent the last years doing sport, and there's nothing that unifies demographics like sport or objects that we desire and aspire for. So in the similarity area, when you talk to 25-year-old males across Asia and really across the world about the next phone that they want, whether it be a Samsung or an iPhone or whatever, they know all the same details. Yes, you have to change language. Yes, you have to have certain localizations and approaches and styles. But we all seem to be getting closer together than farther apart in certain categories. A great unifier is sport. It's an amazing way to talk to an entire generation of people who all disagree, but they all agree to disagree. So one of the most interesting parts of the internet is that you must do mass customization.
Yep.
You must understand it's the internet, so you can't tell someone not to tune in. You need to work in a lot of information. So if data is the new oxygen, then audience data to control the relevant message at the right time is becoming a reality. And if you really want to do graduate level study, there's something called ATS on Monday, which is all about programmatic trading. So we input as much data as we have, and then use machines to control when and where your message appears to certain audiences. And it's not there yet, because we're using a lot of tech to deliver really mediocre creative. And so that's about as far as I can take it. If you look in the technology side, we're trying to be automated and relevant, but we're still not delivering great messages.
Yep.
And if you look at the differences cross-border, within at least 5 categories I can think of, Electronics, sports, food, it's the great unifier. We become fans, we become passionate. If you're speaking to someone's passion, then you can be highly relevant. But if you have that connection, please don't send them to a flat home page. Do something that makes your heart jump.
So I would just add to that I think in traditional media, we thought a lot in things like geographic boundaries. And actually within a country, there are actually much stronger and more significant boundaries that are generational, our gender, our interest level. So I think geography is always a consideration, but it may not be the most important one. With electronics, absolutely. There's a lot of unification because the product is the product, and we, especially the new iPhone or the new Samsung Galaxy, whatever, we're going to aspire to those same specifications. If you take a different product category like cosmetics, right now geography becomes quite important. Actually, race is quite important, right? Because what looks good on an Asian face is not going to be good for me, and that's one of the problems that a lot of the Western brands had coming to Asia. Infant care, right, baby care, baby products, absolutely has to be very, very, very relevant to a very local market. Sometimes even within a country, right, you can have very geographically specific requirements. Sometimes I did some work with Procter & Gamble, and one of the challenges that they had was, how do we take mom's shampoo and make it cool to the daughter without losing mom? It was really hard to take a really standard brand, huge market share with a group of consumers that is not growing, right? It's actually the mom generation. So what Procter & Gamble needed to do was to bring in the younger franchise, and they didn't want to throw away the equity behind the brand. So I think you need to start with who is the target audience, what is the product category that you're in. Another big factor, and this is telling a story about HP, we have one of our business units is based in Israel, and they keep telling me about all the fantastic social media work that we're doing for our customers on YouTube, and in particular YouTube was the one that made me most angry, because the number one market for our products, this division, worldwide is US. Second is China. And I say thank you very much for creating all this content and being so proud of your posting on YouTube. Number one, it's not in Chinese. And number two, at the time, you couldn't get it in China. So what is the point? I'm supposed to be happy with the coverage we're getting in Asia because there's some guy in Australia that can access it. That's not my major market. So they kind of forget even the media channel availability, and popularity of channel also varies quite a bit. So I think if anything, marketing is getting more challenging. It's much more fragmented, and exactly to what James was saying, we need to find those commonalities that bind and create those communities that are of kind of scalable size, and they may not be geographic, they may not be gender, they may be, it just depends on the product category, to think in different ways.
Marco is somebody who believes very much in audience-driven content. That means you always look at the audience and what they want first, and then work way backwards. And he also has worked in China and Hong Kong, and has done one in the Philippines. So I really want to hear from Marco what he feels about customizing campaigns per country. Maybe give a case study of what you've seen in terms of different cultures and how you customize for that.
So, like I said, I'm really much looking into how can you create stories that bridge cultures, and that is actually something really hard. And I think so far only sort of Hollywood and Disney have managed that in a really, really big scale. But then again, they also have the muscle behind it to really roll out and customize, localize those stories, which means in the end, they don't start with a localized story in the first place. So it's very much sort of a transformation process. But I actually don't have an answer to that question, because since I'm here in Singapore, I really try to figure out what is a Singaporean story. What is something that can combine?
Join the club. Sorry.
So basically, what is something that can combine the population of Singapore? What is the sort of a theme that resonates with everyone? And I think it's something that all content creators should explore. And because when you think about like transmedia creation, or basically the new formats that are popping up right now, then you really need something that starts local and then sort of spreads global. And I think a lot of content creators here have sort of lost the belief in Singapore, which I find really, really pitiful, actually. So I really want to encourage everyone to find their own signature, find their own artistic voice, and try to find something that really can bridge cultures and religions even.
I was hoping you would tell us your zombie story in Philippines, actually.
Zombie stories in the Philippines, yeah. Okay, just a really quick thing. We were doing one project in the Philippines where we were commissioned to do a audience building project for an independent zombie film. So a Pinoy zombie film, actually. Which was actually really nice project because zombies are equally famous and popular in the Philippines like everywhere else. Walking Dead is huge in the Philippines. So we were basically tapping into something that already resonated very, very well with the local community. And then we were trying to figure out, so who's actually the audience? Who's watching this kind of content? And then we were seeing on what kind of platforms are they most active. And we actually were lucky and sort of pinpointed down that the area around the cinema where the film was being screened was actually the highest population of active Facebook users in the Philippines. So we were targeting everything on just this platform and we're specifically creating content for that audience. But this is really, I mean, the whole team that was running the campaign on our end was not Philippine. So we didn't really much know about Philippine culture in that sense. It was really a learning process. It was a learning process of 2 months, just surveying the market, being there, talking to people, walking in their shoes, figuring out what they want.
Because there was actually a very strong, I think if you can grab Marco later, there was actually a very strong viral effect that occurred. No pun intended, given that it's zombies. But basically, there was a very strong viral effect that occurred once they began the screenings that was highly, highly unexpected. I'll leave that in suspense so that you can go tell you about it in person.
Oh yeah, the screen next door was showing The Hobbit, and we were beating The Hobbit twice in.
Ooh,
Yeah, go Pinoy. Okay.
well done.
But it was a 2D version, not the 3D version.
But not Transformers, right? You couldn't beat Transformers.
No, it's not The
Zombies and Transformers.
I
It'd
think
be
it is
interesting
only-
if
the
you make
only
a
thing
movie
in the
about zombie
cinema right
versus
now in
Transformers. You just get the
Singapore
whole market straight away.
But then again, we were actually creating an experience. So it wasn't just the movie. We were actually having a booth in front of the cinema with zombies. We had actors in zombie makeup running around. They were doing photos with the people that are coming out of the cinema that were uploaded to Facebook. They tagged themselves, their friends were seen. So we were basically creating this cycle. But that was really, really all about that we knew the audience, that we knew the demographics, that we knew their behavior, how they would react to certain things.
Which ties back to what Lisa said earlier about engaging the audience offline. So basically what Marco's campaign was about was really about engaging people offline so that they will go online and go tell their friends, go see the film. And then they'll be engaged offline and then the cycle will continue. So really, events and engagement offline can't be avoided for, I think, a very successful digital campaign. Okay, so we're right at the end of the program. So if just as a quick note, again, please do the surveys. The links are in your emails. If it's not an email, please go ahead and scan or use the URL. Please do respond to us. It's very important.